Okay, guys, let's get started with today class. So first, let's revise the study session. What are the learnings you having from yesterday session? Everyone, please do share first. I hope everyone having the learning points with Prakash. Do share your yesterday learning. Prakash, are you there? Faguni, can you share your yesterday learning?
Yes. Yesterday we have learned first MVC patterns. So MVC pattern having means model, view and controller. Three things are there, but before that, actually there is three layer: data layer, logical layer, and UI layer. Data layer stands for object, and that object relate to models. And
No, that is, I didn't set their data layer and logical layer. Have you note down the things properly? I said data only. I said
data.
logic only.
Yeah, data, logic, and UI. Right.
Data, logic, and UI.
So data relate to object. Object.
Data is not related to object. Data we manage using the object. Or data we hold using the object. This one I said yesterday.
Yeah. So
and logic.
Object are the real world entity basically, and here object represented model and class represented controller. Then
so what is class here?
Class basically like customer class, like product class.
No,
like
what
class.
code we write inside a class?
What code we are writing? Class basically controlling the method.
You can say here class contains some logic, and logic we write with the alpha methods.
Yeah, that whatever you are writing in the controller, that is the
forget about the controller, just think
Okay.
about logical class. Logical class is a class where we having the methods and we have written some logic over there. That's why it is a logical class.
Yes.
Okay, so when it is coming to the MVC, in MVC controller is a presentation logic class. And when it is coming the models, so models are here for holding the data. Got it?
Yeah.
What is your next learning? Yesterday we did so many things.
Yeah. Then document object model you told that is.
What is document object model?
That's the representation layer where HTML we are rendering the data in HTML format in the browser. It's basically HTML.
What is DOM? I didn't say this one about DOM.
DOM is the document object model. It is a standard guideline for all browsers to render the HTML files in a same manner in all browsers, irrespective of any browser.
So the thing is that DOM is a standard defined by W3C organization.
W3C, right.
And this is standard is followed by all the vendors, browser vendors available in the market. So that's why what are the HTML document you are designing, what are the XML document you are designing,
right.
It look like exactly same in all browser because of that standard. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah, please do clap for Faguni. The next one, please. Only few people are clapping. Uh, I need the response from everyone's side, guys. Please proactive. I think today you have done the exercise. Am I right? How many people did that? Started his or her daily routine with exercise or meditation? Are you one of them? Tell me. How many people started to do exercise and meditation from today onwards? If you have not started, please start it, because you should have the good habit. A good habit always help you to be physically fit and to mentally fit. If you don't have such habit, you cannot be physically fit and mentally fit. Remember this point always. In action, please. Ashok, Ashok, can you share your learning, please?
Yes, sir. Yesterday I learned about routing basically in MVC. There is two types of routing. One is conventional routing, another is attribute routing.
Hmm.
And how do we declare that routing in means abstract class, startup class?
So where we define the conventional routing?
In startup class.
Okay.
Inside startup class, we are declaring the conventional routing. And for attribute routing, we are using controller in action method. We are using the root means root keyword to use the attribute
So
routing.
why we use routing in ASP.NET Core?
Means to get the request from means what to get the request from the user to get the request and give the response.
So what is the main objective to use routing? So routing is here to handle the user request. It was
Yes.
the same thing I mentioned yesterday. Routing is a way to handle the user request, and it decide whether we will process it further or we will return 4 note 4 error regarding this request. What it
Yes.
and what are the advantages of attribute routing?
Means in attribute writing we can mention that is number of parameter. We can pass the number of parameter. Like as yesterday we had mentioned that is one is ID, another is category ID, like this.
No, parameters you can also pass in convention based routing.
But if we change the name of the parameter, then it will not pass the value to this.
No. Attribute routing we use to have more control over the URL generation pattern. This thing I told you yesterday. Remember it?
Yes, yes.
Guys, I think you people are not making the notes properly. That's why you're not able to explain. Guys, if you're not making the notes, it means you're not getting anything from this training. Even on the daily basis, I'm revising the session so that you can recall everything. But until you will not follow my instruction properly, how the things can be delivered in well way. So please, everyone, take the notes, whatever I'm telling here. So attribute routing we are using to have the more control over the URL generation pattern. So somehow it happens you having more than one route, same URL pattern, but the parameters name are different. So their attribute routing can help you to serve the request, or you can say to receive the parameters with different name. Got it? Even in attribute routing, we having a way to define the alias route as well. We can define the alias route also over there. So the same action we can serve by the multiple URL, and each URL can have a unique pattern. Is it clear?
Yes.
So guys, please clap for Ashok. And next one, please. How will start?
Yesterday also we have learned the types of views. That is, views are representation which is rendered in the browser. There are two different types of views, that is standard view and strongly typed view. Standard views are like static files, home view, about view, and contact us, which are static. And others are strongly typed view, which has models. And we can give the inputs through strongly typed view and also displaying output. Also, there are partial views, which is used to create the master pages.
Master pages. How we create the strongly typed view?
We can mention the model name on the top. Then we can take the inputs from the user using SP4 against each control.
So in which case we should use the strongly typed view?
Where we can display the contents based on a model.
So whenever you are going to display something from the database, from a API, or whenever you are taking the input from the end user, that time we create the strongly typed view.
Yes.
And what about the partial view?
A partial view is if you want to reuse some component, then we want to display the same things in every view, then we have to create a partial view. It's like a master page.
Can you give the example? So if you're willing to create the reusable UI component, there we create the partial view. So partial view are used to display again some static information, like we having the header, we having the footer, where we are showing some static information. What is view component?
View component, I can't remember. It is also used to display the some contents of the view, which is dynamic and can be retrieved from the database.
So view component we use whenever you are willing to create a dynamic UI component.
Partial view.
So if you are having, let's say, the comments, the category, so these things we can retrieve from the database and we can display on the UI. So there we use the view component. Okay, thank you. Please do clap for Devi Varsana. The next one, please.
We also learn the controller return type.
First,
Like,
complete the view one. What are the next view layout? What is layout? Who will tell about the layout?
Yes, sir. Tell me.
So layout we use to define the look and feel for the application. So whenever you are going to define a consistent look and feel where you might having a header, footer, and content section, or you might having a right sidebar. So such template, let's say such UI, we can design with the help of layout page and can be replicated to the multiple one. So layout page is just like a master view. Now tell me about the controller.
Controller, there is a different type of return method like action result, and action method.
So how you will identify this is my action method, this is my regular method?
When we are sure about the return type, like if the like we are using the method to add or multiplication, we know the method sure, then we will use the action method. Like addition method to value.
No, you're telling wrong. If you remember, a method which is having the public access modifier inside a controller will refer to as an action method. Because that method you can call it by making the request. So in simple language, any method which can respond to the user activity, or like the method which is having the public access modifier, will refer to as an action method. And a method which is having the private or protected access modifier, or you can decorate a public method with the known action attribute. So that method would be the regular method. Do you remember now?
Yes.
Now tell me about the action result. Okay, let's clap for the Tapan. He shared his 2 learnings. The next one, Jyoti. What is the different types of result and how we decide which one to use?
Different types of results are like I action result. When we are returning multiple return types, suppose you are returning a simple view or you are returning a view result by passing an object, then you have to use the base class type like I action result.
So whenever you are sure about your about the return type of your action, you should use the exact return type like view result, JSON result. And whenever your action is returning multiple types of content, like it might return view, it might return file, it might return JSON, you should use as a return type I action result. Is it clear? Next learning.
Next, we have discussed what is the difference between tier and layer. How can you ensure this is 2-tier or 3-tier? This is basically based on the project behavior or number of hosted application. You can decide this is 2-tier or 3-tier. And also we have discussed if a layer is a hosted application, then we can call it a tier. Like yesterday we have discussed an example where a business layer is there, data layer is there, and a WCF service there, and your .NET application. So here two applications can be hosted in different separate servers, so it can be called 2 tiers.
Okay, thank you, Jyoti. This clap for the Jyoti Ben. The next one is Ranjan. Smriti Ranjan. Can you share your learning from yesterday class? Are you there?
Hello, yes, Salendra. Actually, I was last time I absent. So,
just share your learning from day one. If yesterday you were absent. Do share day one learning.
Day one learning, I just learned what is the known the full stack developer, then how to create in a project, how to like
So what is the full stack developer? Who is full stack developer?
the full stack developer in the sense who is the like working in front end and back end and the database also, and the front end in the Angular and jQuery, and back end really like in .NET Core and ASP.NET, whatever technology used, and database is the DB like Oracle, whatever SQL Server like that.
Okay. And the second learning? What is your second learning?
Second learning how to create like an application through the CLI for .NET Core CLI, and also that is an created two type of project and run one say two different projects. Okay, so that's a
The .NET CLI you learn there to create, build and run your .NET Core based application.
yes.
.NET Standard is a different concept, not related to .NET CLI.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Just do clap for Smriti Ranjan, Bindeshwari. Please do share your learning.
Hello. Yesterday we learned about Razor, which is help, which is a markup syntax to create dynamic web pages. So, and second one is we which and where we should use @ with the variable. Like when HTML tag, when you're using that, in that case, we should use @ as the prefix. But if it is in the code part, then we do not need to add that symbol. On this two, and the rest of all already discussed.
Okay, thank you. So guys, please do clap for Bindeshwari as well. I think everything we recapped, am right?
Yes.
Okay, let's move to the next topic. And guys, please join the session on time. Few people are joining it late. If you will join late, I will not allow. Remember it, from tomorrow, I will not allow to the people who join late. So make sure you're joining before 4 o'clock. This is not a request. This is information to you. If you will not join, I will not allow. So let's start with the today topic is here. What are the HTML helpers? So HTML helpers are similar to the ASP.NET Web Form server controls. So in the ASP.NET Web Form, what we do, we just do drag and drop for creating the input controls. But here we don't have the drag and drop support. So we having here the HTML helpers. And these HTML helpers are the extension method. So these are the extension methods of HTML helper class and HTML helper interface. So do you know about the extension method in the C#? How many people know about the extension method in C#? Tell me. Raghavendra, what is extension method in C#?
Sorry, sir, I am not aware.
Ritika, what are the extension method? Santosh? Anyone?
It is allowing a existing object
to add a new method. It's like if I want to add any attribute if I take the example of the text box control, and it has an object, I can add another property like maximum length or similar kind of thing. I can add as an extension method to that object. Or if I want to be bilingual things.
How you create the extension method?
By using the this keyword. I forget the syntax actually.
Actually, if you're looking at the extension method, note down this one. Extension method are used to extend the behavior of an existing class without altering its structure. So when it is coming to the C#, sometime it happens you having a DLL, and in the DLL you having a class, and inside the DLL class you're willing to add a method. But obviously the DLL code we cannot modify. So do we have any way to add the method to that DLL class object? Yeah, we having a way. Just take the help of extension method. So extension method are a special type of static method we define in a static class. And the first parameter into the extension method we pass of that class which we are going to extend. And that first parameter we always pass using the this keyword. And other parameters we pass whatever we are willing to perform over there. So extension method are the special static method which we define in a static class to extend an existing class or interface. Is it clear? So same way we having the HTML helpers. And HTML helpers return the HTML markup to create the form controls. Even you can create your own helpers as well in the similar way. Just create a static class, just create a static method. Using that, you can create your own custom helper. And when it is coming to the what are the different types of HTML helper we have? So we having the built-in HTML helper and custom HTML helpers. So further built-in HTML helpers we divide into the standard one, and the standard HTML helpers start like this way at the rate HTML, then text box, then define the text box name. Then we having the strongly type helper, which start from the text box 4, and the strong type helper having a dependency on a model class. So first of all, you need to define a model class, and those model class properties we can access here using the lambda expression, decimal lambda expression. And then we having here templated HTML helper. So template HTML helper we use using the editor, like editor 4, display 4. So these are the helper which are known as the template helper, where we having the predefined HTML markup to create the input control to display the content. Even you can create your own custom HTML helpers as well by extending your HTML helper class or iHTML helper interface. So let's see how we can use these HTML helpers to do the things. So just open your Visual Studio. I hope everyone is opening the Visual Studio. So just create here a new project. I'm creating a new project. And again, do select for MVC. You see my MVC, and this is my ASP.NET Core web application using the MVC model, view, and controller this way. So make sure you are creating the MVC project here. Now do click on the next button here. Now here define the project name. So project name I'm defining here, let's say ASP.NET help us. This is my project name. So project name can be anything, it's up to you. But here I'm defining here ASP.NET help us simply. So have you defined the same project name? Now let's do click on the next button. Then we having here target framework .NET 5 authentication type. We having none. Now let's click on the create button to create your project. So this is the way how we added it. So we added just ASP.NET help us simply. This is my project which I added it. So guys, when you will complete, please do let me know. Like I have completed. Okay, now just do one thing. Let's add here a one more controller named as account controller. And guys, please do fast. So I'm just adding here a controller name as account controller as we added yesterday. Now inside the account controller, I'm just going to define an action with the name login. And for my login action, I'm adding a login view. Just do right click here, and here we having the add view, and I'm using here add view login. This is the way add view login. Click on the add button here. So you can see I'm just adding here a view login by doing right click at the login action. Now just select the view name as a login here I'm giving, and just proceed further as it is. It is the same thing we did yesterday for adding the view. Same steps I followed here. Nothing is new here. So using scaffolding, it is generating a view for me. So this is the way it's generated, or you can say it's generated the view for me. Is it clear? Shall we go ahead now if you have completed this one? What about others? Imani, can you confirm? Meenakshi? Prakash? So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to create a login form, same way as we created yesterday. So we having here form ASP dash action name is a login, ASP dash controller name is your account. Then I'm adding here a div, and here I'm adding the user name. Then I can use here the text box at the rate HTML dot text box. This is my text box, and defining it for username this way. Then I'm adding here a div for password at the rate HTML dot we having here password. For password, defining here password simply. Then I'm adding here a div for a submit button. Input, and we having here input type, it would be here submit. A value would be here login, this way. So this way I'm creating a login page with the help of HTML helpers, and these are the standard helpers over there. Let me copy the code. I shared the code through the chat window. You can copy and use it simply. Now what I need to do here, I need to define here the login post method here. I'm defining here HTTP post, then use here string username string password. So this way I will receive the value at my controller side when I will make the login post version over there. So I added the login post method as well. I added the login UI as well. So have we completed this one? Okay, if you completed, that's good. Now run the code. And when you run the code, just do one thing. From here, I can change my startup page. So I'm changing my startup controller from home to account. And action would be here, login this way. So I'm just mentioning here controller as account, action as login, so that every time when I will run the application, it automatically open the account controller index section. Sorry, the login action. So now let's run the code to check out how it is working. So you can see I'm getting here login page by default as a startup one, because in my startup class, I set the default controller from home to account and default action from index to login. And here, if you're looking at the code, you will have a markup like this way. Are you getting the markup? And if you will see, we having here name attribute and we having here ID attribute, isn't it? So can you tell me the benefit of name attribute and the benefit of the ID attribute? I will tell. What is name attribute? What is ID attribute?
In the client side, if you will find that particular text box, we will give it the ID or name to find the particular control.
So which attribute is responsible for sending the value on the server side? ID and name.
Server side, it will be ID. Sorry, name. The browser ID will be changed, but name should be same.
On the server side, which attribute is responsible for sending the value? ID or name?
Name.
What about others? What is others people answer? ID or name?
ID.
Okay. Any other who is saying ID or who is saying name? You know, tell me your answer through the chat window, ID or name. Okay. So the thing is, Your answer is not correct. It's wrong. ID not the right answer. Name is the right answer. So when you're willing to send this text box value, so name attribute is responsible over there. Even when you will use the web form, in the web form, what are the ID we give to our ASP.NET control, with the same value, it's create the name attribute as well. So name attribute is always responsible for posting your input controls values to server side. ID attribute only helping us to do the client side manipulation using JavaScript, using jQuery, because ID used to uniquely identify an element on the web page. Am I right? But the multiple controls can have the same name attribute. So name of the multiple controls can be same, but the ID should be unique across on that web page. Is it clear? And this is a universal rule in HTML. So whether you are using web form, MVC code, Java, PHP, everywhere this rule is applicable. So name is responsible for sending the text box value to server side, ID is for client side manipulation. Is it clear? So what happens here, whatever the text boxes name we have, with the same parameters, we are receiving the value. So we are receiving the value here using the username, using the password. So this is my text box name as username. This is my text box name as password. So ID is not here. It's a name attribute value. And guys, if you're looking at the code, we having here method post. So can I send the data to server side using the get method as well? Let's say if I will change from post to get. So can I send this input control value to server side if I will change it from post to get?
No.
What about others? So we cannot send the data to server side if I will change from post to get. So everyone is saying we cannot, am I right?
Bit confused. Actually, in controller, you have mentioned post, so it should go. Not sure about that.
Forget about the controller.
Get also it goes to the server side.
I'm asking at the form level. When there is HTML form, and if the form method is get, so can I send my text box values to server side?
We can send, but it will not create the data.
So how it
Yes.
will send, how it will send to the server side? If you are saying yes, so how we can send, how data will send to the server side?
It will not send actually. Yes, it will send because using username and password provided through Textworks, it will communicate to the server, and there it will get the data. It will just communicate, but it will not create any. It will not. No, it will not do the any fraud operation.
Why it will not do the CRUD operation? Form is not responsible for doing the CRUD operation. Form is only responsible for sending the data. CRUD operation will be done by your logic, by your code.
Yes.
So the thing is, you can also send the data to server side by using the get method. But in that case, data it will send as a query string. So don't think only get method, like only post method we can use for sending the data to server side. You can use get method as well with the HTML form. But in that case, the data will be exposed in the URL as a query string. Okay, so this is again the HTML basic rule you should know. So form can be posted by using get and post. So here I'm using here the post method. By default is post method here, not the get. So what are the post method we having? We need to handle it. So that's why what I did here, I just added here a login action post version. So we having here two version of this login. This is for making the get request, or you can say this is for handling the get request, and this is for handling the post request. So when you will click at the login button, so there we will send the username, there we will send the password, and those username and password values will map over here, and we will receive it. And who will do this one? This thing is done by the model binding. So in ASP.NET Core, we having a concept of model binding. So model binding is responsible for binding the request data to the action label receiving parameter. So from the request, you don't need to extract the data yourself, because ultimately when you are making the request to server, so at the server side, we always extract the data from the request. But do we have any way? Let's say the request data we can parse, or you can say we can pass the request body. So in that case, in ASP.NET Core, even in .NET, we having the model binding. So model binding actually parse the request data to the action label receiving parameter. Is it clear? So I hope now you learn here two things. What is the difference between get? What is the difference between ID and name attribute? And do we pass the data from get or post? Yeah, we can pass from both. So let's see how we can pass the data over there. I'm passing username as Mohan, password 1234. Click on the login button, and you can see I'm coming here data as username. I'm getting here data as password. So both the data is coming, and method is here post. So nothing is exposed in the URL. But let's say if I will change the method as get, so what will happen? So what I'm doing here for the method get, I'm changing it user login. Let's say user login. And we want to go to the login page again after sending the data. So I'm putting here return view as login. This change I'm doing to show you the example of get verb as well, so that everything is clear. Don't assume it. So I'm having here this time in place of login as user login. And here I can define the method name as get. So I just change my method like this way. So UI for the login, I just change a little bit so that we can make the get request. So both the codes I shared with you, I shared the backend, I shared the UI as well here. So when you will complete, please do let me know. What about others?
Can you please repeat model binding?
Model binding is a mechanism to bind the request data to the action label receiving parameter. So to the action label receiving parameter, we having the model binding. Anything else? So when you will run the code and you will check out how it is working, there you will find out. So this is my login page where I'm putting the username, let's say mohan@gmail.com, password 1234567 Click at the login button, and then it is coming to server side. I'm getting Mohan as a username, password is 1234566, and this type my method is get. And when it is get, you can see I'm getting everything as a query string. It is sending the username as a query string. It is sending the password as a query string. So the password is exposing in the URL. That is not the required one. Okay. So password is not a recommended one. You should expose in the URL. Got it? So guys, shall we go ahead now? Do you have any query regarding this one? So this is about the standard helper. Now what I can do here in place of a standard helper, I can use the strongly type. Even this form tag, we actually can change. If you're looking for the standard style, we have been using HTML dot begin form this way. This is the way actually we define the form when it is coming to the standard helper. This is the way I define it. So this is the style we have been here for standard HTML helper. For strongly type, what we can do, I can comment this code and here I can put it text box 4, text box 4. Then at the top label, let's make it strongly type @model. And to make it strongly type, make sure you added a login model first. So let me add here a login model first in my model folder. So what I'm doing here, I'm just adding a class in my model folder named as login model. So login model is a class which I'm adding here. Add the properties as username. I'm adding the property, let's say as password. So this way we added here two properties, one for username and one for password. Same code I'm sharing with you through the chat. From there you can copy and use it. Now come to here the login model, and here I can use the lambda expression. But make sure at the top label you added @model and login model. This way make sure you added it. And this code actually I'm putting here. So this is a code I'm writing here. I'm using here text box 4. Then we having for username. So username is a property I'm using here. Then we having password. Then I can define for password as well. So I'm dot password is a property. So this way we need to first create a model class and just add the model class reference at the top label. Then I'm creating a text box for username. I'm creating a text box for password. Then this is my submit button for login. So this is an example of strongly type helper we have here in ASP.NET Core. And if you run the code, you will get the same output without any error, without any issue. If you run it, you will get the same login page with the same text boxes, login and sign with username and password. So this is the way we can use here the strongly type helper, and the strongly type helper we have used the lambda expression. Have we completed this one?
How can you use get method here?
Method also you can use here. In
Yes.
that case, we having the option to define a method, and we having the form methods. Get. But make sure if you're using the form method get, you're using this user login. So here we having the action user login controller, we having account this way. So we need to change the action as well. We need to change the controller as well. This is the way I can define. Now run the code to check out how it is working. So we having username and we having here password, and you can see we having same thing. Account user login, method is get, then ID username, name username here. So same way it is working fine without an issue.
By default, it will always consider it as a post.
Yeah, by default is post.
Okay.
So if you want to try this one, I can share the code. This is a code you can try. So have you completed this one?
Can you click on login model.cs?
Login model dot CSS.html. This is a page I'm having.
No, this is file.
This one.
Yeah, what I have written public string get. Acha, okay.
If you look at the chat, I'm sharing the all code. So shall we go ahead now? So now we are using here lambda expression. Can you tell me about the lambda expression? What it is? I will tell about the lambda expression. I'm sure this syntax you are using commonly when you write the code in C#, but do you know about the lambda expression? What it is? Yeah, we will tell about the lambda expression. Manakshi, what is lambda expression? Ritika, Santosh.
It is used like in the anonymous functions.
What is anonymous function?
Anonymous functions, which is created dynamically, and it has no name actually. There is no name of a function.
So how we create the anonymous function? Anyone else who will clear this point? Yeah, guys, tell me. Devarat. So when it is coming to the lambda expression, before that you need to understand the anonymous method. Please note down, this is very important topic which I'm covering here. When it is coming to the C# 2.0, in C# 2.0, we having the anonymous methods concept. So anonymous method, we use to create a inline method. Inline method means what are the mathematical expression you're writing. In the same expression, we are creating the method and using it. So generally, the inline method we create whenever we are creating the method inside an expression, and there is no reusability of that method. So anonymous method does not have its reusability. It's only for one-time use. Even if you having the experience of WPF, Windows programming, there when we define the event handler. So event handler we always create with the help of anonymous method. And to create the anonymous method, we use the delegate keyword till C# 2.0. Okay. So anonymous method does not have its name. That's why it is anonymous, because the method is identified by its name. It's have only method parameters. It's have only method body. So to simplify this syntax in 3.0, in C# 3.0, Microsoft introduced the lambda expression. So this lambda expression is also the way to rewrite the anonymous method, or you can say to rewrite the inline method over there. So when it is coming to the lambda expression, this is my lambda operator, and the left hand side of this lambda operator, this left hand side, always represent to the method parameters, and the right hand side represent to the method body. This is my method body, like this way. So here method parameters name can be anything because it's a method parameters. And so here M is representing to the method parameters, and this name can be anything. It can be A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. And this M is here pointing to the login model class. And the right hand side is about accessing the instance variable. So when M is pointing to this login model object, so by using the object dot, I can access the login model class all public members. And here I'm accessing the username, and here I'm accessing the password. So this is the way the code is written here. So we are writing here an inline method with the help of lambda expression syntax, so that we able to access the username property. And for the username property, we able to create the text box for username and the text box for password. Is it clear? What is the lambda expression? A lambda expression we have of two types: expression lambda and statement lambda. Do you know about this? So whenever you're writing only one statement, that one statement we wrap without curly braces, because when you define a method in the C#, method we always wrap in curly braces this way. But here we are not using any curly braces. Here also we are not using curly braces. So this syntax is coming under the expression lambda. So expression lambda does not have the curly braces, and this is only possible when your method is containing only one statement. So this is one statement only inside the method body. But if I will wrap it in curly braces, then it expect the semicolon, and here we can add multiple parameters now, or multiple statement now. So sometimes it happens inside your lambda expression, or you can say the statement lambda, you need to define more than one statement. So in that case, we wrap the method body in the curly braces, and that is known as the statement lambda. Is it clear about the lambda expression? What is statement lambda? What is expression lambda? And why we define it? Do you have any query? I'm covering your C# concept as well, because these are very important to know. If you will know these fundamental concept of the C#, you will always chant it. So I'm not saying you should chant it, you should learn it, you should understand it. When you will start understanding, you will be able to relate it. Is it clear?
So what is anonymous function?
Anonymous function is a function which is having only method parameters and method body. An anonymous method we define using the delegate keyword. So what is delegate? Can you tell me about the delegate?
Delegate is a reference type.
It's representing the method or function of classes. Representative.
Tell me. Actually, there is also difference between function and method as well, because so many people are saying function, but it's not a function, it is a method. Do you know the difference between function and method? Who will tell the difference between a function and method?
In function, we can use the return type using keyword return.
In C#, can we create the function? Tell me. Anyone else who will tell the difference between function and a class? Sorry, method. Do you think there is a difference, or do you think both are same? How many people think both are same?
Methods which returns the value is referred as a function.
Okay, the method which don't return the value is referred as method only.
That's also a function without a return type.
No, this is not the logic. It's wrong.
Methods cannot be called, but function can be
What? Method cannot be
called.
Cannot be called. So in C# all method you can call by creating the class object. If you don't know, tell it. I don't know. Don't guess it. Guys, one rule you should always remember in your life. If you don't know anything, don't try to mash up it. Say straightforward, I don't know. Otherwise, what will happen? You will be in the trouble of another question. I can ask the different things from you. It should be in your meeting as well. Whenever you're doing your office meeting, when you're talking to the client, if something you don't know, say straightforward, I don't know. Don't try to smartly manipulate the things.
Functions defined inside a class called method.
Okay, that is right. But why we saying method? Why we are not saying function?
In a complete object-oriented programming, we don't have any we don't have any function actually, because all the functions are declared inside a class. So that's why we call as a method, not function.
So the thing is, when it is coming to the object-oriented programming, when it is coming to a class, so what are the function you are defining inside a class? Those are actually referred to as method. If you know about the C and C++ language, in C, I don't need to define any class. We define over there only function, because C is a functional programming language. Am I right? Even in C++ also, we can create a function outside a class. But in C#, we cannot create a function outside a class. So that's why in C#, we always say it is a method. We never use the word function in the C#. But if you're looking at to the JavaScript, in JavaScript, we say function. Because in JavaScript, function we can create without creating a class. But in JavaScript also, when you create a class that can be created from the ES6, we start saying their method. Is it clear now? What is function? What is class? So this is very basic, but it is very important to understand such things, to differentiate between the functional programming language and to differentiate between the pure object oriented language. Is it clear? Even same thing we have in Java as well. I'm right. So are you enjoying such learning? Tell me. Do you think you are learning a lot from this training? It's not about only ASP.NET Core training program. It's about to cover everything, whatever you don't know. Okay. So now comes to the delegates. What is delegate? Who will tell the delegate? Anyone who will tell me about the delegate? Any idea? Okay, guys, one more thing I suggest you here. Actually, we are Indian. Okay, so as a Indian, actually, we are not good in English. We are not good in English. We actually very bad in English. And whatever the things you are learning, even every language you are learning in English. So the thing is, what actually you should keep in the mind, even I do the same practice. Whenever I'm going to refer a term, a technical term, let's say you are referring a technical term, let's say delegate, or you're referring a technical term, let's say an object. So first we should try to find out the meaning of that English word. What is the meaning of this English word? When you will understand the meaning of this English word, you will automatically understand that technical topic also, or you will start relating the technical topic with a real life example. But if you're not trying to find out the meaning of that English word, what will happen? You will not actually not understand that particular topic easily. Please keep in the mind, always try to find out the English word meaning first, then read the definition. 50% to 80% thing would be clear automatically as soon as you will know the meaning of that English word. If you're looking at the English word meaning of delegate, it is a representative. Am I right? So delegate is a representative for a method. If you're relating it with the real life, so when there is a match between the Indian cricket team and the Pakistan cricket team, so we say there is a match between India and Pakistan because Indian cricket team is presenting to India and Pakistan cricket team is presenting to Pakistan. Similar way, when you go outside India, so you are the delegates for other country people. Similar way, when someone from America, from Japan came to India, they are delegates for us. So whatever the behavior they are having, let's say an American behaving like this way, a Japanese behaving like this way. So we having a perception in the mind, Americans are this, are like this, Japanese are like this. Similar way, when you go outside India, whatever the habit you are having, what are the behavior you having over there. So others country people having a sense, Indians having such habit. Indians behave like this way. Because you are representing your country culture, you are representing the country men over there. But in India, nobody care about. Got it? So same thing we having in delegate as well. In the C#, if you look at the delegate definition, when the delegate signature start matching with the method. So instead of calling that method directly, I can call it through delegate. So delegate actually used in the callback functionality. Even the callback example, you can understand one more example. Let's say when there is a deal between two countries, India and let's say USA. So it does not mean the PM Modi went to the USA and they signed the deal immediately. No. Before signing any deal between two countries, there are delegates come here and there. So delegates from India goes to USA, they come back to India and let us know. These are the deal terms. These are the things we are going to get out. Then if there is a correction required, they again go to the America and do the changes in the deal if it is possible, and again come back. Okay, these correction we have done, now these are left. So what is happening? The delegates are responsible for initiating the communication between two parties. Same thing we having in the technical language as well. So whenever there is a requirement to define a event handler, in the event handling, we use delegates over there. Even when we create an event, we having a delegate instance over there. So whenever there is a requirement of callback of event handling, delegates are playing a role over there. Is it clear now, delegates? Do you have any query? So good to go ahead. Okay, so we have done with this lambda expression. So many terms are there: anonymous method, function method, and delegates. But these are again very important things when you are dealing with the .NET. If your basics are not good, you always just thinking it's a features, but it's not a features of the .NET Core. It is a C# only. Okay. And one more thing you need to understand here, like in place of strongly type helper, we can use templated one, but that example I'm not showing because I don't feel it is required to cover. Another example which I'm covering here, that is the custom HTML helper. If you're willing to create your own custom helpers, so how you can create? So for creating your own custom HTML helpers, just do one thing, just add a folder. I'm adding here a folder for helpers. This is my folder. So make sure everyone is adding a folder with the name helpers. Now inside the helpers folder, I'm adding a static class. I'm adding a static class named as submit button, or you can say the button extension, button extension. So this is a one static class I'm adding, button extension, public static class button extension. And how the code we need to write it. So for writing the code, I need to look at this built-in library code. If you're looking at in this built-in library, we having the HTML helper input extension. This is static class. It is containing a checkbox with the static method HTML content, and they are going to extend this HTML helper interface. Same thing I will do here. I will just extend. I will create similar method in my static class. So similar method I'm creating here for my submit button. So this is my submit button. And this is I'm adding here HTML content. This is my HTML helper. I'm adding here this way. And finally, I need to return here the HTML markup. So I'm defining here button name. I'm defining here, let's say button value. Because if you will see in the text box, I'm using here button value and I will define here button name also. So I need to create here a string. I'm creating here a string str equal to, this would be here what it is, input type. It would be here submit, and we having the submit button value, which I can define here at the rate name. I'm using here value, and as a value I can define here value this way. And finally I can return new HTML string, new HTML string, and finally do here str. So this is the way what I have done here. I created my submit button, and I'm using here the C# 7.0 syntax. In C# 7.0, you don't need to use plus operator now. Using this $, I can integrate my C# variable directly into the string simplified. So this is a simplified version of string concatenation. And here I'm returning the HTML string, simple. So the same code you need to write here. So this is my submit button code I'm writing here. So similar code you need to write here. Code I shared through the chat, you can copy and use it. And when you will complete, please do let me know. So if you have completed, so directly we cannot access, sorry, this one at the UI page. For accessing at the UI page, we actually need to add this namespace everywhere. So let's see how we can add this namespace everywhere. What I'm doing, I'm just going to copy this namespace. And now let's add it at underscore view import. Over here, I'm adding it at the rate using, and this namespace I'm adding simply. So this namespace simply we added here. So if you completed this one, after completed this one, now go to the login page, and in place of this submit button, I can use my created helper. So I can use it at the rate HTML dot submit button. So submit button name. So name is, let's say, command I'm using here, and button value, let's say login. This way I can define it. Similarly, I can define here a one more button as cancel. This is my cancel button we added. So after adding that namespace, now we can directly access the things over there simply. I'm just adding this section. Okay. So now the thing is, we having here two buttons. Now we need to understand actually which button you have clicked. So which button you have clicked, we can check out here by using the command option. So this is my command option. Using that, I can check out which button I have clicked. So if let's say command equal to login, it's login here, else it's cancel here. So we can check out here for login and sign up simply. So we having username, we having password, and we having the command over there. So this code you can, okay, I think it is post one, so it should not here. It should be over here. Because we are using the post method, not the get method there. Am I right? So actually get is not the recommended one. Recommended one is post. You should always use post method. So let's do one thing. I'm commenting this out. If you want to use it, you can use it. For a reference, I put there also, and I'm putting this one also. Simply. So get is not the recommended one. You should use always post method. I'm using here post also. So here I just write the code here also. Let's say if you will click on the login button, so this code should be executed. If you will click on the, let's say the cancel button, so this code would be executed. And now let's run the code and check out how it is working.
The command, if command is equal to login, that part in the controller is giving error. The command does not exist in current context.
Make sure you define a parameter at the action label command.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't see that. Sorry.
So when you will clicking here now at the username Mohan, password 1234. Now I'm clicking at cancel button. You can see it is coming here. Command as cancel, password is coming, username is coming perfectly. If let's say I will click here on login button, command is coming as login. So this is the way we able to create the our custom helper, and even using the button name. we able to figure out which button we have clicked simply.
Surendra, can you open login.css.html? Can you just copy the code and paste in chat? Because I am getting the error end tag is missing matching start tag in div.
Locations.
I'm unable to run the application. It is showing this page is not working.
Can you share your screen?
Can you view my screen?
So what is the issue?
Is there anything I have to write? Command equal login.
No, that is fine. Can you stop the application and run it again? So this is not your code error. I think there is an IS Express error. Can you build the code what it is saying? Restart the Visual Studio.
No, it's not working.
Okay, can you show me the startup class? Is it working before? Fine.
Yes, yes.
The thing is actually what you did mistake. Login get method you have not mentioned. Where is login get method?
Yes, yes.
So don't mention get over there. That's fine. Just mention login only. This is your error.
Okay. Thank you.
Guys, what about others? Are you able to run the code now and getting the same behavior? Okay. So we have done with the built-in HTML helper and standard strongly type. Even I just shown the custom one also. Then we having here URL helper. So when it is coming to the URL helper, so URL helper we use to avoid the hard code URL. So if you're looking at here, when it is coming to the linking, this is my underscore layout. Actually here I'm using the tag helper. I'm not using that one. I will use the tag helper. So what I can do here, let's say this is my anchor tag. And here I'm defining my href attribute. Let's say href attribute. So here I can use URL helper URL dot action. So action name is, let's say, login. Controller name, let's say account. And this is my login simply. So what I'm doing here, instead of doing the hard code URL, like instead of using the tag helper, I'm taking the help of URL helper. So URL helper actually help us to generate the URL based upon the defined root in our startup class. And we need to just pass here controller name, we need to pass here action name, we need to pass here the parameter, and based upon that it automatically generate the things for us. Sometime it happens you might be using jQuery ajax method, and the jQuery ajax method, instead of doing the hard code URL, I can take the help of URL helper to get out, or to can say to find out the URL, to generate it. So that URL we can generate and we can start using it simply. So let's see how these are working so that we can go ahead.
We can also direct mention the controller and action method in href tag.
That's what I'm saying. In that case, if you're using this style, is a tag helper.
Yes.
If we will mention that hard code URL, so hard code URL we need to avoid, because let's say tomorrow you are going to change the routing, so that routing things you need to update manually everywhere. So better way is here, use the URL helper to generate it automatically.
Yes.
So that's why I'm using here my URL helper to do the things over here. So this way I can click on the login. It's coming without an issue. So URL helper is helping us to generate the URL based upon the routing we have defined in our startup class. So in a startup class, what are the pattern we having? So that pattern we have defined, that pattern we are using simply over here. And that one I'm using. So do you have any query regarding this one, or shall we go ahead?
In startup class, we can define more routing. So using that, how many I have created there? If I'll use URL helper, it will create that many of URLs.
It automatically take based upon the parameters you're defining. Here I have not defined any parameters. It will pick up this one here. Because here we having the controller and action 2 parameters are mandatory. So it will use this one. If we will have any other one where you having the 3 parameters mandatory, so it will not use this one because I don't mention 3 parameters over there. I mention only 2 parameters. So depending upon how many parameters you're passing and how many are there in the URL pattern, it will pick up one of them.
Okay.
Okay, let's have a 10 minutes break. After the break, we will continue to the tag helpers. That is the recommended one in ASP.NET Core. You should use it. So tag helper we will use. So let's get started with tag helper. So now in the ASP.NET Core, the recommended style is tag helper. This style actually we commonly use in ASP.NET MVC 5 or MVC 3 and MVC 4. But in ASP.NET Core, this is not the recommended one. We do use which we have used yesterday. If you remember the yesterday one, in the yesterday one, we define the things like this way: ASP dash action login ASP dash controller, let's say account. Then we having here div. So as a div, we can have a div for username, we can have a div for password, and we can go ahead. So this one I'm having here input type text. And we having here ASP-4. So this is for username. Similar way we having for password. So this is for password. Then we having here for submit button. So I'm adding here input type submit value login. And directly I can define the name equal to command. So you don't need to write now the HTML helpers. Use it as a plain HTML markup. So as we do the plain HTML markup, similar way, I need to read here like login, like we having the cancel. So use a login and cancel like this way. So this is the style you need to use here with the ASP.NET Core now as per the latest syntax. Code I shared through the chat window. You can copy and use it. So you can see still I'm getting here username, I'm getting here password without an issue. So everything is looking fine to me. There is no error request. So have we completed this one? Shall we go ahead now? So good to go ahead now. So the benefit you will find out of the tag helper, it is now HTML friendly. Because when you're working with the designer, whenever you are working with the template, so the template we always get in pure HTML markup. So that pure HTML markup template, we can easily modify with the help of tag helper. Or you can say in the existing HTML template, we need to just add these tags. ASP-4 for username, ASP-4 for password, ASP-section for login, ASP-controller for controller. But if you're looking at in this style, it was difficult to modify the UI because we need to completely rewrite the things here. So this is time consuming, but this is not time consuming. It is very simple to add the razor tag over there so that we can use the existing UI, or let's say layout as it is, whatever is given by the designer, what is given by the UI team to us. Is it fine now? How the benefit you will find out of this approach? So as a best practice, as a recommendation, you should use the tag helper in ASP.NET Core, not this standard HTML helper, not this strongly type, because these are the older style. Then you might be thinking why they still supporting these older syntax. This support because of backward compatibility. Because you might having the older application in MVC5, and those MVC5 older application, sorry, you are willing to migrate to ASP.NET Core, so that UI we can reuse. So for UI reusability, they still supporting this older syntax. But in ASP.NET Core, they are not recommending you should use the HTML helper. they are recommending you should use the tag helper. That is easy to use and easy to manage if you're looking at simply. So do you know the benefit of using the tag helper as compared to the older one HTML helpers? Is it clear to everyone? Why the tag helpers are recommended to use in place of HTML helpers? Okay. And if you're looking for what are the various tag helpers are available, so we having the form tag helper, form action tag helper, input tag helper, label tag helper, image tag helper, select tag helper, text area, partial tag, script tag, link tag, cache tag, component tag, distributed cache, environment tag helper. So we having the various tag helpers, which are available as an alternative to the older ASP.NET MVC 5 standard helper and Stony type helper. So these we can use over here. Now guys, if you're willing to create your own custom tag helper, so that also you can create. So let's see how we can create our own custom tag helper. So my requirement is, if you're looking at this is my tag helper.
Hello. Yeah, hello, Smriti. Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
Is it how tag is helper is required and help why it is required actually?
Can you say again, please? What are you asking?
Why tag helper is required?
Tag helper is required to simplify the UI given to you by the UI team. Because what happens, if you remembered, what are the template you download from the online for building a shopping website, for building a ED tech website, that is in pure HTML. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
What happens that pure HTML we replace with our server controls, isn't it?
Okay. Yes.
So in that case, it is a rewriting the UI.
No,
But
actually, if you can check in the Bootstrap like framework, there is also written the for password like that. Okay.
in Bootstrap also, whatever the markup we are having, it is a pure HTML markup. We don't have there at the rate HTML.textbox, at the rate HTML.password. The Bootstrap markup look like this way.
Okay. So what is the benefit if you
Benefit
use
is it is HTML friendly. You don't need to put much effort while integrating your Razor syntax.
now how it is actually reduce the much effort? If you write an ASP for password, ASP for username, so how it is work done, then it will be easier to handle the page.
It's simple. Let me show you with the example. Let's say there is a Bootstrap form.
No, my question is that
The same I'm explaining. Hold on, please.
Okay.
This is a markup you having. Okay. This markup is handover. This is the markup with the part of your login page. Is it fine?
Okay. Yes.
Even the same way you will have from your designer team. Designer design the UI like this way. Am I right?
Yes.
So how you will do using the server controls? I need to replace this code completely using this syntax @HTML dot text box. Am I right?
Yes.
Then I have to define here what is the name of this button? Email. This way, I need to define here value, let's say null. I need to define here CSS class as well. So I will add here CSS class.
Okay.
What is the CSS class? Form control. What is the ID here? ID here, example input email. Got it?
Yes.
And other setting I define same way. But when it is a tag helper, what I need to do? I need to do one thing only, ASP-4 username. That's it. So do you think this is time consuming or that this one is time consuming?
No, no. My question is that let's example one page in input to email text box. There is the input right input, then type equal text and all type equal to email required is required. So whatever the configuration part that will be done in that inline in that particular control. Okay. If you use the tag helper, then what is the benefit than that particular control? That's the same thing you are written. You are writing email, whatever the value you accepted and all. And then what is the ID? That is you are writing the same way. Okay. So syntax is different. But in if single control, the whatever the properties and whatever the ID and whatever if you want to convert the server control, so everything is I will write in that line. Okay. So then what is the difference? That's I want to know.
Same thing I'm explaining, but you're not getting it. The same thing I'm telling you here. Objective is of the tag helper is to simplify the syntax, to simplify this markup. If you're looking at this code, this is readable more or this is readable more? Which one is readable here? Which code is readable more? This code is readable more, this code is readable more?
Actually, based on the understanding.
Sir, it's not the base upon the understanding. When you're working with the HTML, in HTML, everyone know how to create a text box in pure HTML. Think about a person who don't know MVC.
Yes.
So the person who don't know MVC, he cannot understand this code. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
But that person can understand this code because he know the HTML.
Yes.
So this code is easy to read.
Yes.
So when you're working with the UI team, when you're working with the designer, so designer can help you to simplify this markup. Because usually what happens in the enterprise company, UI team is separate and application development team is separate. So they manage the things over there.
Okay, so whatever you are saying that is correct. So input type equal email, someone like a designer who has no idea about the MVC can understand that tag. So in top of the code, HTML.textbox, whatever the property is right. Okay. So the UI team who is the designing, who has no idea, so how he can write?
How he can write means?
So because he has no idea about the MVC. So okay, so that means someone is designed this way, then developer will be converted to particular text box.
No, now developer don't need to convert anything. That's the same thing I'm telling you. Designer will give you this markup. Developer only add this attribute. This is the conversion of my existing code into the markup. This is the conversion I did. But with the tag helper, I don't need to convert anything. I need to just put my tag. It's ready to use.
Okay. Now, if you don't, we are not put like a tag helper, so you can use that control or not. Without using the tag helper, there is a field basically in the people, so whatever we have seen some developer, they're without the server side control, they're using Ajax and post and get method, and there is an input box and drop down. They also write the code and submit.
That is also possible, but in that case, model binding will not work after the post back. When I will submit this form data on the server side, and after the post back, if you want to maintain this username text box value, the email text box value, the contact number post back value, that can be maintained only if you're using the tag helper. If it is a pure HTML element, you cannot maintain.
Okay, that means you are saying in ASP.NET, whatever the view state is there, each control also keep the value of that control. So in here, and tag helper also help to the keep the after the rendering or push back the page to keep the value in HTML control, right?
Yeah, the model state will work with the tag helper. In the normal text box, it will not work. Even when I will apply the validation, so validation also applicable on the text box when I will use tag helper. In normal text box, you need to write entire code yourself.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else?
No, that is the like a tag helper for the like an HTML tag helper like that. Then whatever other tag helper you have mentioned in that PPT, so you just continue. Then you have a question, then I'll ask.
No, other tag helper also providing the same facility. Model binding after the post back, validation after the post back, but those are not the HTML friendly. Tag helper is HTML friendly.
Okay, so can you give the like an example, whatever the tag helper you are saying in that PPT, so then you can better understand. Let's like currently you are giving the HTML tag helper, ASP for like that. So same thing, whatever action tag helper like your HTML tag helper and ASP tag helper, whatever you written. So you need to like an example.
Sir, each and every tag helper example is not possible to do in one demo. Side by side, when we will proceed in the session, all of them you will find out we are covering.
No, but here you mentioned the form tag helper, the form action tag helper.
If you're looking at here, this one we already covering, this one we already covered, this one we already covered, this one we already covered. Only label is missing. Label I will cover when I will create the registration page.
See, so whatever I understand, you are saying in the ASP and the tag helper ASP for use for that is the keep the value after the rendering and post back the pages. But in here you have also mentioned the label anchor image tag helper. Okay, there is no like a dynamic value is there. If it is like a label that you can write the text in statically. Also action tag, anchor tag, you can write the whatever the link, any navigation the page of or directly or write the name. So then what is the use for that tag helper for the anchor tag and
Sir,
label?
label value can also change dynamically.
So no,
label is not always hard code.
No,
label name is decided based upon your property name. I will show you this. I will show you these things when we will do the validation. Don't worry. If you need the example, I can show you how the label can be changed dynamically based upon the property name. It is possible.
So that means you are saying like it will be on a work like an text box and drop down.
Yeah, that's why they created the helper. Otherwise, there is no meaning to create the helper if we are not controlled from the code.
As you know, the like an label and anchor tag and image, that is the read-only control. So,
sir, I'm not talking about the read-only control. I'm talking about what the text you're going to display over there. That text we are not doing hard code. That text would be decided based upon the model property name. That I'm telling.
No,
that you will understand when I will do the validation class. There I will show you. Don't worry. Hold on.
Okay.
Anything else?
No. Okay, I will see when you are showing.
So guys, shall we go ahead now, or do you have any other query?
Okay, you can proceed.
So let's see how we can create our custom tag helper. So for that case, what I need to do here, need to add here is simple. This folder we added here help us. Similar way, I can add here my class for my custom tag helper. But requirement is here for the custom tag helper is, so whenever actually you are on the home page, so this home link should be highlighted. And whenever you are on the privacy link, then privacy should be highlighted. And whenever you are on the this login one, the login should be highlighted. So this is the way the things is going to be highlighted. So for this purpose, I'm going to create my custom tag helper as it is having here for ASP-action. Similar way I can create it. So for that, I'm just adding here a item. Just do right click at the helpers folder, and we having the option for my tag helper. You will find out a file here for tag helper class. There's a class is available. I'm creating here the tag helper for routing. So it is here, let's see, active root. The name of the class can be anything. Active root, let's say I'm defining here. Active root helper. So this way we added it. So here let's define here the element name, how you're going to call it. I'm just going to call it here, let's say the name, not the name, attributes. As attribute, let's say I'm using here ASP dash active dash root this way. I'm adding here a property with the name view context. So I'm adding here view context. This is also view context. Add the missing namespace here and decorate it with view context. So view context actually we needed to get the information about the requested controller and requested action. And to use this one, what I will do, I will use this attribute now wherever I'm using the tag helper. So here I'm using it here simply at home. I'm accessing here ASP active root, then my CSS class name, let's say active. Same I'm using here my CSS class name, let's say active. So active is a CSS class which I will use it. So active class I have not defined so far. I will define it. And guys, make sure this ASP active root, you are applying only those anchor tag which are containing the ASP-controller, ASP-section. I'm not putting the ASP-active root on this one. because here I don't have the ASP controller and ASP action. So make sure this helper we are going to apply where we are using ASP desk controller and ASP desk action. And markup code I shared through the chat window, you can copy from there. And here I'm just defining my active class color as, let's say, color as red, then important. So this way I'm defining my active class. So what I did here, I just added here a red class for the color. Same class is going to apply it to the menu so that the menu will look like active as red. So similar thing I did here, color for red, and it is important simply. So have you completed this UI part? When you will complete, please do let me know.
Can you go to the active HTML helper class?
This class code I will share with you, don't worry. Just do focus right now on the layout one. So guys, shall we go ahead now? Okay, now let's come to this class, active one. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to figure out what is my requested controller so that I can get it here. Let's say where controller equal to view context. Then we having here root data. Then we having here values. I'm just going to get my controller value dot to a string. Then we having here action. So this is my action simply. Now let me get out the tag controller. So as a tag controller, I can get the controller information context dot all attributes. Then first on default, then context context dot tag name all attributes. And then we having here so now let me look for the attribute which we are looking for. A
You need to use link queue as a namespace. Then only it will be came.
Using system dot link. Now it is coming first and default. I'm just using here the tag name. So I'm looking for here name for attribute. So name for attribute is, let's say, ASP dash controller. In this way. And then value dot toString. Because by default we'll get the toString. So this is about my tag controller. This is about my tag action. So ASP dash action. So now we will compare the things. So this ASP dash controller means wherever I'm putting this ASP active root. So these attributes actually we are reading. We are reading ASP dash controller. We are reading ASP dash action. So these attributes values we are reading from this anchor tag simply. Now I can compare it. If controller equal to this tag controller and action equal to tag action. If both are matching with each other, okay, let me convert to a string this way. If both are matching, then we need to apply here active class. Over here, active class I will apply. But before that, I need to get the class attribute over here. So let me get here the class attribute as well. It would be a CSS class. So as a CSS class, what is the attribute name? Attribute name is here class only. So I'm using here the attribute name as class. Now let me add our own attribute class, their output dot attributes, then add. What attribute I'm going to add? I'm just going to add the attributes CSS. And what is the CSS class name? So this is the existing class, existing CSS. We will get here existing CSS. And what actually you want to apply, that let me get out here. So I'm just going to apply this one using this ASP dash active root. So this is new CSS. So let me concatenate it into the CSS. It would be the existing one plus new CSS, and make sure there is a space as well. Otherwise, we cannot use the CSS. And now add this CSS class. This is not CSS, this is actually class simply. So what we are doing, we are reading the attribute one by one, where we applied this helper. Okay. And now what are the new CSS we are going to apply, that I'm including to the existing one. And finally, this class attribute value we are changing. Like this class attribute value, we are manipulating. So this manipulation part we are doing here simply. So this manipulation we will do. So this I'm sharing this code with you so that you can use it. So complete code it didn't share. Let me share after the tag action. Now I shared the complete code simply. And please do let me know when you will complete it. So have you completed this one? Okay, now just do one thing. Let me open here now underscore view import file. And as we having here the tag helper, similar way we need to add here the tag helper for this one also. But this time it will be the namespace of my application. So this line to change as per your application namespace. So what the project name you having, just add that one at the view import file. If your project name also same as I'm having, so just put this line, add tag helper asterisk comma the namespace. This thing you need to mention over there. Have you added this line? Okay, so now let's try to run it. If everything is fine, it should run it. I'm putting here a breakpoint for testing purpose. So it is coming here. Controller, tag controller, home, tag action index. It's not coming. The action privacy, it's not coming. Then continue. So we have not highlighted because now go to the home page because we don't have the login one like this way. I'm removing the breakpoint. So make sure it's adding the CSS class properly. Okay. I think it is not coming here. So let me check out here. Existing CSS class are coming. New CSS class is coming. Okay. Output dot attributes. Okay. It's node at add attribute. It should be here. Set attributes. Attributes dot set attribute. In place of add, just replace it set. It will work fine. So what they change it to do here, just replace add with set. Now can see home is now highlighted with red color. Privacy also. Login is not highlighting because under login, we don't have the tag helper. We having here href attribute. So this href is not working, but here it is working fine. So this is the way how the custom tag helper is working to highlight my link.
Here I am facing some issue. Can I share my screen? My screen is visible?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this tag helper is showing some issue.
Chat the missing namespace.
There is no using option here.
Select the first one. Select the first one. Can you save it? I don't think MVC is required. Laser is also working here. Can one do it? It's not required to it. Try to just close the file, open it again. And copy paste, sometimes things didn't work. Can you build the code what it is saying?
It is only tag helper, not tag helpers. Extra S is added.
Attributes dot set. Set attribute. Make sure at the top label you added the active class. Have you added?
Here is the
Santosh, change the project name. They are in view imports HTML. You just copy the, you have copied that one.
What is your project name?
Project name. You put that your project name.
It is ASP.NET Helper 3.
ASP.NET Helper 3. View import. Change it. Yeah, that one.
It is already available in line number 1. From the line number 1, copy it and paste there.
Thank you.
So guys, hey, shall we go ahead now?
Also, in my case, it's not having red color. Hello.
Can you share your screen?
Here is active. Also, I have mentioned the right project name.
Show me the class. After the red, there is a space in line number 11. After red. Before. Now save it. Can you inspect it? Inspect. Are you getting the class? Scroll down. So it's not adding the class.
Okay. Not calling the process method.
Can you open the view import file? What the mistake you did there? There is a spelling mistake in case of namespace. Copy it as it is. It's case sensitive. Line number 1, ASP.NET help us copy and paste it as it is. It is case sensitive. Now rerun the application.
Yes.
Okay.
And in my case, coming red.
So make sure you have mentioned the color properly. That's why it will come. Sometimes there is a typing mistake we do. If you look at the same thing happen with.
Check that.
Can you share your screen?
Yes. Is it visible? It's coming like this. Both are red.
Both are red. Can you show me the code?
Yes. So here I just
Here
copy
you
it.
didn't mention the if condition. In active root helper, if condition is missing. Line number 22. Where is if condition? Where we checking the controller and action name.
Okay. Okay, thank you. It is a chart.
Compare controller with tag helper and action with tag action. Simple. So guys, I hope everyone has completed. I'm right. So this is the way you can create your custom tag helper if it is required. And we have successfully completed this one. Okay, one more thing to understand here when it is coming to receiving the data at server side, like over here. So we having the various techniques for receiving the data here. This is the one technique where we can directly use the text box's name as a parameter name for receiving the values. But we having a one more option, like instead of using the each text box name separately, what you can do here, we can receive the values here using model class, because we already having a model class login model, and that is having the same properties as we having the text boxes name. So in place of these two properties, I can use here, let's say login model. This way I can use it, login model. Then I can check if command equal to login, then do this one. If command is not login, then do this one. So this is the way I can check whether I can map the text boxes values. So if you having a class which is containing the same properties as we having the text boxes name, so that class can be used for receiving the values. So same thing is happening. I'm using that class for receiving the values. So now here run the code and check out how it is working. This is a second way for receiving the values. So I'm putting here the username, password. Do click on the login button. All the values will come in the model. You can see I'm getting here username. I'm getting here password. So both are coming properly without an issue. So this is the second way for receiving the value. Can you check it? Can you check out here how it is working? It is working fine. Do let me know. Okay, thank you if it is working. Now there is a one more way we having here for receiving the values. Because sometimes it happens, if you're looking at in both the cases, we know already here number of text boxes. So we already know the exact number of text boxes. So we having two, so we just receive it two properties. And here also we know the model class properties. But sometimes it happens you might be generating the text boxes on the fly, on the runtime. So how those text boxes value we can receive here? So in that case, we having an option that is iForm collection, where we don't know the exact number of post-it data coming to the server. So we use their iForm collection this way. So now here I don't need to mention the command separately. Now everything will available as a key value pair. Command equal to form, whatever the key name you have this way. A string user name equal to form, and we having the username. Then we having here a string password equal to form, and we having here password simply. Now we can check the value over there. If it is command login, then do this one. If the command is password, then do this one. Simply. So now let's see how it is working fine without an issue. So I already put here the breakpoint. Now I'm running my code to see how the value I can receive. What I'm doing, I'm putting here my username Mohan, password, and click at login button. And you can see I'm having here keys now. I'm getting here command, I'm getting here username, I'm getting here password. So everything is working fine, nothing is wrong here. This way it's running, I'm getting the data. But here after the post back, you cannot maintain the data over there. So after the post back, we cannot maintain the data as we can maintain in the previous case. So this is not the recommended one when you already know the exact number of input controls, but this is the fine when you don't know the exact number of input controls you might be receiving. The example here, let's say you having a payment gateway which you have integrated in your application, and that payment gateway response you are willing to read. So for reading that payment gateway response, I can use iForm collection because I don't know how many uh, form fields that payment gateway is posting to us. But using the iForm collection, I can access it easily without any issue. Is it clear how it is working? Please test it and do let me know how it is working. Okay, if it is working fine, let's proceed to the next topic here. So the next thing we having here, data validation. Because if you're looking at so far what we have done, we created the input controls. We have seen how we can create the custom helper, custom tag helper. We able to receive the data on the server side as well. But now the question is here, when we are going to create a form, how there we can receive the user input and how we can validate it. So when in that case, we having the form validation. So form validation help us to ensure that the received data is correct and valid. And data we should validate at client side as well as server side. so that we can prevent the unwanted attack. So ultimate goal of data validation is to do the data validation so that we can prevent the unwanted attack. And we apply the client side validation and we apply the server side validation. So can you tell me what are the benefit of using the client side validation? What are the benefit of server side validation? Who will tell what are the benefit of using the client side and what are the benefit of using the server side validation?
If we put the client side validation, then data will be filtered from the client end, so that the in server end the data will be filtered before go to the server.
So can I skip the client side validation if I've applied? Can I skip the server side validation if I apply the client side? Let's say we applied the client side validation. So can I skip the server side validation now?
No.
No.
Why?
Because somehow if the JavaScript or jQuery is disabled at the client browser, then server side can be.
If let's say it is not disabled in that case.
Then when anybody can hack the application, then she can pass the data.
How he can hack the application?
At the request time, he can pass the SQL say modify the data or pass the any.
By using any interceptor, you can change the skip the validation if you have not given server side validation.
Do you know any interceptor name?
Bobsuit is an interceptor.
Yes, Bobsuit. Yes.
Which one?
Bobsuit.
It's not about the interceptor. We can have other tools as well, like Fiddler, Postman. Using these tools also, we can make the request, isn't it?
Yes.
So in that case, your JavaScript will not run inside these tools. So in that case, you should have a way to validate the user input on the server side, so that if somebody is bypassing the client side validation using these tools, so our server side validation will be applied over there to check the data validity. But if it's a simple end user, so for the end user, the client side validation helps a lot. Can you tell me the benefit of using the client side validation?
It will avoid unnecessarily round trip.
Pardon?
It will avoid unnecessary round trip to server.
Okay. And any other benefit? Apart from saving the round trip to server, what are the other benefits we have for client side validation? Do you know?
Client-side scripting is more faster than server-side scripting.
Okay, execution would be faster. Okay, this is a second benefit. And any other benefit do we have?
Data filter.
But in each page, we don't have the data filter option.
Yeah, I'm not getting you.
User can ensure that the data that they are putting, it is a valid data. People go to the server.
Why user need to ensure? It's your responsibility, not user responsibility. Actually, if you look at the another benefit, you will find out we build the product to our end user. So until end user will not feel comfortable for using our website or like web page, it's no meaning to build their product. So benefit of client side, or you can say main benefit of client side validation are to make the page more interactive and more user friendly. If let's say there is a sign up page, and the sign up page user is entering its email ID. If let's say user didn't enter the correct email ID format, immediately it will show the error message. Please enter the correct email ID. And as soon as the user will enter the correct email ID, the error message will disappear. So what it is making the page and more interactive, even user friendly as well. Now the user having the confidence, whatever he's entering, it is correct. What it? So interactivity comes only from the client side library, not from the server side. Because in the server side, until you will not click on the save button, it will not go to the server side and will not show the error messages. And when it will start showing the error messages, they will not automatically go away. So in that case, user having confusion, I have entered my name, but it is still showing the error message. Please enter the name. I don't know why they are expecting. Got it? So as a developer, which validation code you will write first? Client side one or server side one? Let's say you are building the code now. So which validation code you will write first?
Server side.
Server side first validate.
Why not client side?
Because first we will design the business logic first.
What about others? Do we have here who is saying we should write first client side? Do we have here who know who say client side code we should write first? Okay, so as a developer, you should first verify your server-side logic is working fine or not. Because if you will first complete the client-side validation code, so every time we will get the validated data from the client side. And as a developer, we don't use the postman and the fiddler for testing our request, or you can say to intercept our request. So better way is here, you have make sure everything is running fine on the server side. And when you are sure everything running on the server side, you should start replicating it on the client side. So when it is coming to the server side validation, so we having here two ways to implement the server-side validation. Use the traditional approach where we use the if-else statement, which can be used to apply the server-side validation. And we having here data annotation attribute as well. So we don't have here validation control. We having here attributes. So with the help of attribute also, we can make any property required, any property regular expression we can mention over there. And when it is coming to the client side, for the client side validation, we use JavaScript and we use JavaScript library like jQuery, Angular, React, JS. One of them you can use if you're willing to build them simply. So let's see how we can apply here client side and server side validation. So just do one thing. Let's create a new project for validation purpose. So I'm just creating here a new project and the project name is here, let's say MVC. Again, I'm creating here a Spinat Core MVC. So this is my Spinat Core MVC. I'm selecting now, define here the project name. I'm defining my project name, let's say MVC validations. Define the location. So I'm using here code CSM day 3 this way and click on the create button. Have you created the project? Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm just going to add here a model class. Let me add a model class. So I'm adding here a model class for a user model. And in user model class, let me add property. I'm adding here, let's say name property. And then username, then we having here password, then we having here confirm password, and then I'm having here contact number, and I'm having here boolean terms. So this way I'm defining here the properties for my user model. Same properties you need to define. I shared the code through the chat window. And when you will complete, please do let me know. Okay, so now what you need to do here, need to add here a account controller. So I'm adding here MVC controller empty, and my controller name is account. And here this time I'm adding the sign up action. So we added the sign up action, create the sign up action post method as well. So this is my HTTP post, and let's receive the user model. I'm receiving here a user model simply. So this is the way we just receive here user model. Now let's add a view. So just do right click here at the sign up model, and we having the option for adding a view, add view. So we having here razor view, then add. And for adding the razor view, we having the template. So as a template, we can use here create template. So this time we will use the benefit of ASP.NET Core scaffolding. So I will not write the code for the user model class myself. With the help of scaffolding, we can generate it easily. So we having here the model class option. I can go ahead with the user model this way. So make sure this time when you're creating the view, you selected this model and template also as create. These two things need to select. Template as create. So make sure these two settings you have defined properly. Have selected these two things. So shall we go ahead now? Now just click on the add button. And you can see using the scaffolding, it is generating the code for us. So it's generated the code here. And if you will see, it's added automatically a label where it is having ASP-4 name is the property. And then we having a class control label. We having a text box for name. We having a validation. So each property you will find out will have three things. Label will have, text box will have, and for error messages, it having a span. And they having the each validation. So ASP validation for showing the error message for name, ASP-4 for defining the ID and the name for the name text box. And this is the label. So whatever the label we will define for the property that it will use. If you have not defined any label, it will use only the property name. So what is the property name we have? So property name is only name. So we will get here only name here. And for designing purpose, we are using the Bootstrap 4. So they added automatically Bootstrap CSS classes, text danger. We having here form control class. We having here control label class. So these are the predefined CSS classes in Bootstrap. For designing purpose, it is using. So you don't need to define, or you can say don't need to refer these classes yourself. So Bootstrap understanding is required to understand this UI, because this complete UI is based upon the Bootstrap form component. So they having this MD4, they having the class row. I hope you are aware of the Bootstrap. So how many people are aware of the Bootstrap here? Do we have someone who don't know the Bootstrap? Do we have someone here who don't know the Bootstrap? Can you confirm through the chat window? Is someone who don't know the Bootstrap? Guys are there? Can you confirm? So I hope everyone know the Bootstrap. Am I right? Okay, that's great if you know already. So do you have any query regarding this generated markup? Are good to go ahead. What about others?
There is something in the last part at the rate section starts scripts.
Yeah. So right now, just comment this section. I will use it later on. Tomorrow we'll explain. And now just do some changes in my UI label changes. Let's say sign up should be the button name here. And I remove the back to link. I just added here only this script part, simple. Even here also I'm removing the user model. I will have only sign up here. Sign up, then horizontal line, row, then column, simply. And this way we having for name, username, password. And one more thing here, make sure you added the same span for checkbox as well. Because for the checkbox, they have not added any error message. So let me copy the span from the top label and put it for my checkbox where we having the accepting the terms and condition. So a single span we added for the checkbox also, so that we can accept the terms and condition from there. I hope these changes everyone has done as I did here. If someone need the complete markup, I can share with you. But make sure the namespace and everything you having exactly same as I'm having. So at once I cannot share it. I need to share it one by one. This is the first part. There is the second part. Even I have no right here, it is auto-generated code. Just this change I did, and here I just remove some H4 tag. I have just removed over there. Now, if you will willing to test it, so just set up it as a startup page. In the startup, I'm just going to set up here account. Then we having here sign up simply. Now run the application to check out the UI, how it is looking. So you will see we having now UI now for the sign up like this way. So properly we getting the text box for name, username, password, confirm password, contact, terms and condition. So everything looking fine here. We don't have any issue. So perfectly it is working at the from the UI perspective. So are you able to get the same output for the UI purpose? Can you confirm? Okay, so now the thing is, I'm just going to apply here validation using the first approach, that is explicit model validation. This is the approach I'm using here to validate the things. So in that case, I will check the each property one by one. If let's say string dot is null or empty, I will check it here for model dot name. Then we need to add the error into model state explicitly. Model state dot add model error. I'm adding the model error for name. So please enter name this way. Similar way, I can add for another property also. So this time it would be here username. And now let me add for username. Please enter username. And before doing any processing, we need to check the model state. If model state is valid or not. If it is valid, then we will check out here. If it is invalid, then we will not do anything over there. So here I will write the code if it is valid, otherwise. So what I will do here, return redirect to the action. Action would be here, index controller home. So this way we will redirect to the index home action. I'm putting here the breakpoint to test it out. If you want to check it out, I'm putting the code in the chat. From there you can copy and use it. Now run the code to see how it is working. So you can see we having here everything is fine. Let's click on the sign up button directly. And when it will coming, first time it is coming, modest state is valid. Then do check one by one. We entering the error message, and now it is modest state false. So as soon as we added the one error into modest state explicitly, it will go into the invalid state. Same thing is happening. So you can see I'm getting here error message, please enter name, please enter username, which I added over there explicitly. And here if I'm maintaining the username and password, so error message is not going to disappear because it is a server side validation, not the client side. So please check out this one and do let me know if it is working fine.
Shailendra, just click on startup.cs. Okay, here accounts controller. Okay, fine. This person only you have changed, right?
I just set up here account controller sign up as a startup page.
Okay, right. So sign up.
So guys, for today's session, I have done from my side. If you have any query, any doubt, please do ask. If you don't have, see tomorrow. This sample we will complete tomorrow. with client side and server side validation. And make sure everyone having the access to the website now. From there, you can watch the recording. So today, recording also we will upload at the same place.